So it's a fun little trick that I like doing for, especially for dance music, but it can be applied to just about any other genre. Hey, what's up everyone? I'm John with the content team. I work and run a bunch of our in-house labels like Parallax, 4/4, Sample Magic, Neon Wave, and help out with many others. And today I'm going to be teaching you how I like to stack and layer instrument racks within Ableton. So one of the things that I always like doing is being able to drag in an instance of my favorite synth. In this case, we're just going to be using a basic preset in Serum. And in this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how I like to stack basses to get a really big sound without necessarily having to use a bunch of the oscillators in the same synth, but rather duplicating this instance of Serum into 3 different parts. So the first thing I'm going to do is I got this first version of this first instance of Serum. Let's go ahead and play a sound and hear what it sounds like. Pretty basic sound, nothing to be super excited about. But let's go ahead and start adding some processing on it. So the first thing I'm going to add in is an EQ. And on this EQ, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this my first layer. So this is going to be my bass sub layer. So what I like to do with my subs is I like to high pass as much of, high cut as much of the low end as possible. So right now, I am going to be going into Serum and bringing this down to about 2 octaves down. You can hear that bass right there. And then I'm going to go ahead and switch this over to a sine wave. So now you can hear the sine wave right there. And essentially what we're trying to do here is we're trying to really dial in the very lowest octave of this bass. So as you can see here, we got this sine bass hitting at C3 with a frequency of about 70 to 60 hertz. And what I'm doing with the EQ here is I'm just really trying to dial in that frequency so that when we start layering, we can add more and more harmonics on top of it. So that's our bass sub. So let's go ahead and duplicate this. And now we're going to be doing the bass mid layer. So this is going to be the mid layer bass. And on this one, I am going to deactivate the EQ. Let's drop in another one to this second layer. I'm just going to color it so that it's a bit more easy to see visually. And on this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find the second octave. So the first octave bass is this one, as you can see right here. And let's actually drop in a spectrum analyzer because it can be a little bit easier to see without having to rely on the EQ. So as you can see there, that's the first octave. Now let's go to this one, let's solo it and check out on this one, the second octave. Actually, let me change the sound to a regular saw wave. So we're gonna switch inside of Serum's wavetable position to this saw wave right here. So there we go, now we can hear that second octave that we're gonna be playing around with. And as you can see here, we're going to be attacking or at least focusing on the second octave of this bass, which is going to be in this frequency range right here, which is 132. Now the reason we're doing this is because we want to be able to have a clean sub, which is just a sine wave. Then we want to have a mid bass, which is going to be the second octave. So when we play both of them together, it's going to sound like this. You can really hear that both of those sounds are in their own specific frequency spectrum. They're not overlapping. And this is going to give us a lot more control over the final tone and how we want to play around with this bass. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and duplicate this into the top layer. So this is going to be the bass top layer. And I'm going to color this white just so that I can kind of keep these separated. I'm going to turn these other two off and just focus on this one for a bit. And now with this top layer, what I like to do is this is where I can get really wide with the bass sound. Typically with the first and second octaves, I like to keep the bass sort of centered in the stereo image. I don't like to give it a whole lot of width because that just makes it sound better, especially on club systems where there's oftentimes dual mono systems where you're not really going to be able to register that much stereo information. But for people that listen to music on streaming or AirPods or whatever, this is sort of where I want the bass to really shine in terms of the width. So on this bass right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the unison amount to 2. And then right there, you can hear the bass is really wide, and we're just gonna reduce that detuning just a little bit, more to taste, but we still have that nice width. I might actually add 4 of these right here. So this now needs to be attacking the 3rd harmonic. So on this one, remember we said we were going to do the first sub bass frequency, which sounds like this. This is the mid one, and then this is going to be the top one. So for this one, I'm going to bring it down to this frequency range over here. So that way we have an equal division between all of these layers of the bass. So let's play them all together. So now you got a really big bass sound. And what I've essentially done is I've just split the frequency spectrum for each one of these sounds. And the cool thing about this is that you're going to have a bass that is going to be already really well treated to go into production and also into a final mix, which is really great. And then the last thing I want to show you that I like doing, which is a cool little trick and tip that maybe some of you don't know, but I love playing with the envelope MIDI. And what I like doing with this specific envelope MIDI generator, or not generator, but ADSR, attack, decay, sustain, release, is I like putting a little reverb at the end of this. And what it essentially allows me to do is I can play with an ADSR and map it to the dry and wet signal on this reverb. So let's go ahead and try this out real quick. So one of the first things I do is I just go over here on the envelope MIDI map, and then I am going to assign it to the dry and wet of the reverb. And so now when we play this sound, it's gonna be triggering based on whatever we have on this envelope. So let's go ahead and play that back and see what it sounds like. So right there, I think I need to give it a little bit more decay. All right, so right there, we're able to kind of get that reverb only being triggered by the amount of like whatever we have here on the envelope. So in this case, I was playing a lot with the decay, so check this out here. And this is a cool effect that you can use if you're doing a track that has like a lot of syncopated bass lines, and you just kind of want to have this thing kick in every now and then, and you can just, I mean, this is something great for leads as well if you want to. You see how that reverb just kind of disappears right away? And if you want to really dial this in, you can come in the Ableton Reverb and just kind of play around with the different diffusion networks, the input filter. You want to give it some more release. But yeah, that's some sauce. Yeah. So it's a fun little trick that I like doing for, especially for dance music, but it can be applied to just about any other genre. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this quick little tutorial on how to make your own instrument racks and how to be able to make a really fat bass. You know, a lot of people, what they do is they'll try to separate this into 3 different tracks, which you can. But the cool thing about this too is that now if you want to go and save it, you can just call it, you know, John's bass rack. And then you can always recall it. And I suggest doing this with a lot of different instruments and just experimenting and go crazy with the amount of layers that you want to use. You can use up to, I don't know, like 50 layers or something like that, something ridiculous. So also I just want to let you know, if you like this tutorial and you like this chain, make sure to download the link in the description.